Pyrrhic victory. The smoldering ruins of New York's iconic skyline painted a grim backdrop against the blood-red sunset. Captain Sarah Chen stood atop the remains of the Empire State Building, her eyes fixed on the horizon, where the last Xeraxian warship had disappeared mere hours ago. The acrid smell of burning plastics and alien alloys stung her nostrils, a constant reminder of the price humanity had paid for its unlikely victory. "Captain," a voice crackled through her comm unit. "The Council has acknowledged our transmission. They're expecting us within the next solar cycle." Sarah closed her eyes, allowing herself a brief moment to process the weight of what lay ahead. "Understood, Rodriguez. Prep the Astral Phoenix for departure. We leave in 2 hours." As she made her way down the crumbling stairwell, Sarah's mind raced through the events of the past year. The Xeraxian invasion had caught Earth completely off guard. Humanity, still squabbling over petty terrestrial conflicts, had been woefully unprepared for the technological might of the alien armada. Cities fell within days, governments crumbled, and for a moment, it seemed as though the human race would be nothing more than a footnote in galactic history. But then something remarkable happened. In the face of extinction, humanity did what it did best. It adapted. The Astral Phoenix was a testament to that adaptability. As Sarah approached the makeshift spaceport on what used to be Central Park, she marveled at the ship's mismatched silhouette against the darkening sky. It was an amalgamation of human ingenuity and salvaged Xeraxian technology. A patchwork vessel that had no right to be spaceworthy, let alone capable of intergalactic travel. "She ain't pretty, but she'll get us there," drawled Chief Engineer Aisha Okoro, appearing at Sarah's side. The Nigerian woman's face was smeared with grease, her hands calloused from endless hours of jury-rigging alien tech to human systems. Sarah managed a weak smile. "Let's hope the Council sees past appearances. We can't afford to be judged on aesthetics alone." As they boarded the ship, Sarah was acutely aware of the eyes upon her. The crew, a ragtag assembly of soldiers, scientists, and civilians, looked to her for leadership, for hope. She straightened her back, pushing down the doubts that threatened to surface. The ship's interior was a chaos of exposed wiring and hastily welded panels. In the command center, holographic displays flickered to life, showing a motley assortment of faces, the remnants of Earth's leadership connected from various bunkers and hideouts across the globe. "Captain Chen," began President Alvarez, her hologram fuzzy, but her voice firm. "The fate of our species rests on this mission. The Galactic Council must be made to understand that humanity is not just some foolhardy race that got lucky. We earned our victory, paid for it in blood and sacrifice." General Zhang's weathered face appeared next. "Remember, Captain, we're not just seeking recognition. We need allies, resources. Earth is in ruins, and we can't rebuild alone." Dr. Amelia Strand, the team's xenolinguist, chimed in. "We should lead with diplomacy. The Council races may be advanced, but they're not gods. We need to appeal to their sense of reason, of galactic community." As the debates raged on, Sarah felt a headache building behind her eyes. How could they hope to present a united front to the Council when they could barely agree among themselves? "Enough," she finally interrupted, her voice cutting through the chatter. "We all want the same thing, a future for humanity among the stars. But we won't get there by bickering. Each of you was chosen for this mission because you represent the best of what humanity has to offer. It's time we started acting like it." A hush fell over the command center. Sarah took a deep breath and continued. "Dr. Strand, you'll take point on communications. General Zhang, I want a concise but impactful presentation of our military strategy against the Xeraxians. President Alvarez, prepare a proposal for Earth's potential contributions to the galactic community. And Aisha," she turned to her chief engineer, "make sure this ship holds together. We can't afford any malfunctions when we reach the Council station." As the crew dispersed to their stations, Sarah felt a presence at her elbow. It was Rodriguez, her second in command, his young face a mix of concern and determination. "Cap, there's something you should know," he said in a low voice. "The AI we salvage from the Xeraxian flagship, it's been active, learning. I think it might be more advanced than we initially believed." Sarah's brow furrowed. The artificial intelligence they had extracted from the alien systems had been instrumental in their victory, providing crucial insights into Xeraxian tactics and technology. But an evolving AI was a wild card they couldn't afford right now. "Keep it isolated from our primary systems," she ordered. "But don't shut it down. It might prove useful when we reach the council." Rodriguez nodded and moved away, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. As the astral phoenix hummed to life around her, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were embarking on a journey that would redefine humanity's place in the universe. The ship lifted off, its cobbled-together engines straining against Earth's gravity. Through the viewport, Sarah watched as the scared surface of her homeworld fell away. Continents once lush and green were now marred by the scars of war, great swaths of destruction visible even from low orbit. As they breached the atmosphere, a flash of light caught Sarah's attention. A Xeraxian scout ship, previously hidden in the shadow of the moon, uncloaked directly in their path. For a heart-stopping moment, Sarah thought they were about to be blown out of the sky before their journey even began. But then, something unexpected happened. The Xeraxian ship transmitted a series of complex mathematical equations, a universal language that needed no translation. Dr. Strand's voice came over the comm, filled with excitement and disbelief. "Captain, it's a hyperspace coordinate key. They're giving us safe passage to the council station." Sarah's mind raced. Why would a defeated enemy offer assistance? Was it a trap? Or was there more to the Xeraxians than the mindless conquerors they had appeared to be? With no time to ponder the implications, Sarah made a split-second decision. "Input the coordinates. Let's see where this rabbit hole leads us." As the astral phoenix engaged its jury-rigged hyperdrive, Sarah couldn't help but feel that their victory against the Xeraxians was only the beginning. The true test lay ahead, in the hallowed chambers of the Galactic Council, where humanity would have to prove that their triumph was more than mere luck. It was destiny. The stars stretched into lines of brilliant light, and the patchwork ship carrying Earth's hopes and dreams hurtled towards an uncertain future, leaving behind a battered but unbroken world, forever changed by the crucible of interstellar war. Smoke and mirrors. The Galactic Council station loomed before them, a colossal structure of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the Astral Phoenix, her breath catching in her throat at the sight. The station was a marvel of engineering, dwarfing even the largest Xeraxian warships they had faced. "Magnificent, isn't it?" Dr. Amelia Strand whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "Imagine the knowledge, the history contained within those walls." Sarah nodded, allowing herself a moment of awe before reality came crashing back. "And imagine how primitive we must seem to them," she replied, gesturing to their patchwork ship. As they approached the docking bay, a transmission crackled through their comms. The language was unlike anything they had ever heard, a symphony of clicks, whistles, and harmonic tones. Dr. Strand's fingers flew over her console, the xenolinguist's brow furrowed in concentration. It's a composite language," she explained, "designed to be understood by multiple species simultaneously. Fascinating." "That's great, Doc," Sarah said, "but can you translate it?" After a tense moment, Strand nodded. "They're granting us permission to dock. But Captain, they're referring to us as the primitive victors. I don't think this is going to be the warm welcome we hoped for." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Noted. All right, people, remember the plan. We're here to make an impression, to show them that humanity has earned its place among the stars. Let's not give them any reason to doubt that." As the Astral Phoenix maneuvered into the docking bay, Sarah couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between their vessel and the sleek, advanced ships surrounding them. Each one seemed to represent a different alien race, all of them light years ahead of human technology. The docking clamps engaged with a shudder, and Sarah took a deep breath. "Showtime," she muttered. The human delegation disembarked, a small group chosen to represent the best of humanity. Besides Sarah, there was Dr. Strand, General Zhang, and Aisha Okoro. President Alvarez's hologram flickered beside them, transmitted from Earth. They were met by a delegation of alien beings, each more bizarre and wondrous than the last. A tall, willowy creature with iridescent skin stepped forward, its multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "Greetings, humans," it said, its voice a melodious trill. "I am Sinra, adjutant to the Galactic Council. We have been eagerly awaiting your arrival." Something in Sinra's tone made Sarah's skin prickle. There was an undercurrent of amusement, almost condescension, in those words. As they were led through the station's winding corridors, Sarah activated her subdermal comm unit. "Rodriguez," she sub-vocalized, "how's our little project coming along?" "The AI is interfacing with the station's systems as we speak, Captain," came the quiet reply. "It's like nothing I've ever seen. This place, the technology here is beyond comprehension." "Keep me posted," Sarah murmured. "And remember, if anything goes sideways, you're our exit strategy." They arrived at a vast chamber, its ceiling so high it seemed to disappear into shadows. Tier upon tier of seats surrounded a central platform, each occupied by a different alien species. The diversity was staggering. Beams of energy, silicon-based life forms, creatures that seemed to phase in and out of reality. And every single eye, sensory organ, or perceptual apparatus was fixed on the human delegation. Zinra guided them to the central platform. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," the adjutant announced, "I present to you the representatives of Earth, victors over the Zeraxian Armada." A murmur rippled through the assembly, a mix of disbelief and barely concealed derision. Sarah stepped forward, squaring her shoulders. "Honorable members of the Council," she began, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "We come before you today not to boast of our victory, but to extend a hand in friendship and cooperation." She nodded to Aisha, who activated a holographic display. Images of Earth filled the air around them, but not the Earth they had left behind. These were images of Earth in its prime: vast forests, gleaming cities, technological marvels. "This is who we are," Sarah continued. "A young species, yes, but one with unlimited potential. We have faced extinction and emerged stronger. We have." "Emerged by sheer luck, you mean?" a booming voice interrupted. A massive gelatinous being oozed forward in its hover pod. "We have reviewed the battle footage. Your victory was a fluke, nothing more." Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. Sarah felt her temper flare, but Dr. Strand placed a calming hand on her arm. The xenolinguist stepped forward. "Esteemed counselor," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "luck played its part, as it does in all of history. But it was human ingenuity, adaptability, and courage that truly won the day." She gestured, and the holographic display shifted, showing the innovative tactics and makeshift weapons humanity had employed against the Zeraxians. General Zhang spoke up, his voice gruff but respectful. "We may lack your advanced technology, but we possess something just as valuable: the ability to think outside conventional boundaries." The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some dismissive, others curious. Sarah's eyes darted from one alien face to another, trying to gauge their reactions. Suddenly, her subdermal comm crackled to life. "Captain," Rodriguez's voice was urgent. "The AI, it's found something. Something big." Before Sarah could respond, a new hologram sprang to life in the center of the chamber. It showed a Zeraxian queen, the very one they had captured during the war's final battle. The chamber fell silent. "Impossible," Sinra whispered. "The Zeraxians are a warrior race. They cannot be captured or reasoned with." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "And yet, here we are." She turned to Dr. Strand, giving her a subtle nod. The xenolinguist stepped forward, and to the shock of everyone present, began to communicate with the Zyraxian queen in its own language, a series of complex pheromonal signals that Strand replicated through a device of her own design. The council watched in stunned silence as human and Zyraxian engaged in conversation, defying everything they thought they knew about both species. When it was over, Strand turned back to the council, her eyes shining with excitement. "The Zyraxians are not the mindless conquerors you believe them to be," she explained. "They are a race driven by a complex religious prophecy, one that led them to Earth. But in humanity, they found not an enemy to be destroyed, but a crucial piece of their cosmic puzzle." The council chamber erupted once more, but this time the tone was different. There was confusion, disbelief, but also respect. A wizened being, seemingly composed of pure energy, floated forward. "It seems," it said, its voice resonating in their minds, "that we may have underestimated you, humans. Perhaps there is more to your species than meets the eye." Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice strong. "We don't ask for handouts or special treatment," she said. "All we ask is for a chance to prove ourselves, to earn our place among the stars." The energy being seemed to pulsate thoughtfully. "Very well," it said at last. "We shall put you to the test, a series of trials, to prove your worth to this council and the galactic community at large." As excited whispers spread through the chamber, Sarah exchanged glances with her team. They had come here expecting ridicule and dismissal. Instead, they had sparked curiosity and earned a chance, however slim, to prove humanity's worth. It wasn't recognition, not yet, but it was a start. As the council began to debate the nature of these trials, Sarah allowed herself a moment of quiet triumph. They had gotten their foot in the door. Now they just had to blow it wide open. The real challenge was about to begin. The ace up their sleeve. The human delegation huddled in a small antechamber off the main council hall, the air thick with tension and the hum of alien technology. Captain Sarah Chen paced the room, her mind racing as she processed the events of the last few hours. "A series of trials," she muttered, shaking her head. "We're being treated like some primitive species applying for galactic citizenship." Dr. Amelia Strand looked up from her datapad, her eyes gleaming with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "But Sarah, don't you see? This is our chance. We're not being dismissed outright. They're curious about us." General John grunted, his weathered face creased with concern. "Curious like scientists observing lab rats, perhaps. We need to show them we're more than just an interesting experiment." Aisha Okoro, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly straightened. "Captain, I think it's time we used our trump card." All eyes turned to the engineer. Sarah nodded slowly, understanding dawning on her face. "The Zyraxian queen. But are we sure we want to reveal that hand so soon?" Before anyone could respond, a soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. President Alvarez's hologram flickered to life in the center of the room, her expression grave. "Captain, we've received some disturbing news from Earth," the president began, her voice tight. "There's been an uprising in the Australian quarantine zone. It seems some of the Zyraxian ground forces we thought we'd neutralize have reactivated." A heavy silence fell over the room. The implications were clear. Earth was still vulnerable, and they needed the Council's help more than ever. Sarah's jaw clenched. "Understood, Madam President. We'll do whatever it takes to secure that aid." She turned to her team. "Looks like we're playing our ace sooner than expected. Dr. Strand, is the Queen ready?" The xenolinguist nodded, her fingers dancing over her datapad. "She's been prepared for this possibility. But Captain, we need to be careful. The Queen's cooperation is fragile at best." "Noted," Sarah replied. "All right, team, here's the plan." As they re-entered the council chamber, Sarah could feel the weight of countless alien gazes upon them. The awe she had initially felt at the assembly's diversity had faded, replaced by a steely determination. These beings, advanced as they were, held the fate of humanity in their hands. It was time to show them that humanity wouldn't go down without a fight. Zinra, the council adjutant, glided forward to meet them. "The council has deliberated on the nature of your trials," the willowy alien began, its multiple eyes blinking in that unsettling sequence. "We have decided." "Begging your pardon, Adjutant," Sarah interrupted, her voice ringing clear through the chamber. "But before we proceed with any trials, there's something the council needs to see." A murmur of surprise rippled through the assembly. Interrupting the council proceedings was clearly not a common occurrence. Sarah nodded to Aisha, who activated a device on her wrist. A shimmer of energy coalesced in the center of the chamber, slowly taking shape. Gasps and exclamations in 100 alien tongues filled the air as the form solidified into the unmistakable figure of a Xeraxian queen. The queen was a sight to behold, nearly 4 meters tall, with an exoskeleton that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. Her multiple limbs ended in both delicate manipulators and fearsome natural weapons. But it was her eyes, multifaceted and eerily intelligent, that captured the attention of every being in the room. "Impossible," a voice shouted from the upper tiers. "The Xeraxians cannot be captured or controlled." Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. "Not captured, and certainly not controlled. This queen came to us willingly, seeking understanding and cooperation." Dr. Strand moved to stand beside the queen, activating her pheromone synthesizer. The air filled with a complex mix of scents as she began to communicate with the alien monarch. The council chamber fell into an astonished hush as the interaction unfolded. Even those species without olfactory senses seemed captivated by the unlikely dialogue taking place before them. After several tense minutes, Strand turned to address the council, her voice trembling slightly with the weight of her words. "Honored members of the Galactic Council, allow me to translate. Queen Kivax of the Xeraxian Hive wishes to speak." The queen stepped forward, her movements a mesmerizing blend of grace and power. When she spoke, her voice was a multi-toned thrum that resonated through the chamber, with Strand providing simultaneous translation. "Esteemed council," the queen began, "I come before you not as a conqueror, but as one who has seen the error of her ways. The human species, whom we sought to destroy, has shown us a new path." She went on to explain how humanity's resourcefulness and adaptability had forced the Xeraxians to reconsider their entire worldview. The conflict had not just been a war, but a crucible that had forged an unlikely understanding between two vastly different species. As the queen spoke, Sarah's subdermal comm unit vibrated. "Captain," Rodriguez's voice came through, tight with urgency. "The AI has made a breakthrough. It's decrypted some of the Council's most secure files." "You're not going to believe this." Sarah's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "Give me the highlights," she subvocalized. "The Xeraxian invasion wasn't random," Rodriguez continued. "There are factions within the Council that have been manipulating events, pushing for the destruction of emerging species like us. They're afraid, Captain. Afraid of unpredictability, of change." The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. She looked around the council chamber with new eyes, wondering which of these aliens had been pulling the strings, which had condemned humanity to face the Xeraxian onslaught alone. As Queen Kivax concluded her address, a buzz of excited conversation filled the chamber. The energy being that had proposed the trials earlier floated forward once more. "This is unprecedented," it said, its voice resonating in their minds. "Never in the history of the Council has a species demonstrated such unorthodox problem-solving abilities. Perhaps we have been too hasty in our judgment." Seizing the moment, Sarah stepped forward. "Honored Council," she said, her voice carrying a new edge of authority. "We came here seeking recognition and aid. But now I see that we offer you something far more valuable, a new perspective." She gestured to the Xeraxian queen. "We turned an implacable enemy into an ally. We've demonstrated that cooperation can exist even between the most unlikely of species, and we've done all this while fighting for our very survival." Sarah paused, her gaze sweeping the chamber. The galaxy is changing. New challenges arise every day that cannot be solved by technology alone. Humanity offers you adaptability, creativity, and a unique viewpoint that could be invaluable in facing these challenges. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some supportive, others skeptical. But Sarah could see that her words had hit home for many. The balance was shifting. Shinra stepped forward, its iridescent skin pulsing with what seemed to be agitation. "This is most irregular," the adjutant began, but was cut off by a commanding voice from the highest tier of the chamber. Enough. The voice belonged to a being Sarah hadn't noticed before, a massive crystalline entity that seemed to phase in and out of reality. "I have seen enough. The humans have demonstrated more in this single session than many species do in centuries of council membership." The crystalline being's facets sparkled as it turned its attention to Sarah. "Captain Chen, your species will be granted provisional council membership, effective immediately. The details can be worked out in the coming cycles, but know this: you have earned your place among the stars." As the council chamber exploded into a frenzy of reaction, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had secured its foothold in the galactic community. But even as she accepted the congratulations of her team, Sarah's mind was racing. The AI's revelation about council factions working against emerging species was troubling. They had won this battle, but she suspected the real war was just beginning. Humanity's greatest challenge lay ahead, navigating the treacherous waters of galactic politics while safeguarding their own interests and those of other fledgling species. But as Sarah looked at her team, the brilliant scientist, the stalwart general, the innovative engineer, she knew they were ready for whatever the universe might throw at them. The age of humanity's isolation was over. The era of human influence in the galaxy had begun. Tables turned. The next solar cycle found the human delegation in a state of cautious celebration. Their provisional membership in the Galactic Council was a monumental achievement, but Captain Sarah Chen knew that the real challenges were only beginning. "Don't get too comfortable," she warned her team as they gathered in their assigned quarters aboard the station. "Provisional membership means we're still on probation. The Council may have been impressed, but they're far from convinced." Dr. Amelia Strand nodded, her eyes glued to her datapad. "I've been analyzing the Council's historical records. It's unprecedented for a species to gain membership so quickly. We've ruffled some feathers, or tentacles, as the case may be." General Zhang grunted in agreement. "We've made ourselves a target. Every species out there that's been waiting centuries for membership is going to be gunning for us now." As if on cue, Sarah's comm unit chimed. It was Rodriguez, still aboard the Astral Phoenix. "Captain, we've got a situation. The AIs detected a surge of encrypted communications among several council members. Whatever they're planning, they're trying to keep it off the official channels." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Understood. Keep monitoring and report any developments." She turned to her team. "Looks like the honeymoon's over, people. We need to be ready for anything." No sooner had the words left her mouth than a chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Xinra, the council adjutant, its iridescent skin pulsing with what Sarah had come to recognize as agitation. "Captain Chen," Xinra trilled, its multiple eyes blinking rapidly. "The council has convened an emergency session. Your presence is required immediately." As they hurried through the station's winding corridors, Sarah's mind raced. Had they been too bold? Had the AI's infiltration of the council's systems been detected? The council chamber was a hive of activity when they arrived. The tiers were filled with representatives from every corner of the galaxy, their voices a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and subharmonic rumbles. The crystalline being that had granted them provisional membership floated at the center of the chamber, its facets glinting in the ambient light. "Order," it resonated, its voice cutting through the din. "We are here to address the matter of the human probationary period." Sarah stepped forward, her posture rigid. "Honored counselor, We were under the impression that our probationary period would last for several cycles. Has something changed? The crystalline being's facets shimmered in what might have been amusement. Indeed, Captain Chen. Recent events have necessitated an acceleration of our usual processes. A holographic display sprang to life in the center of the chamber, showing a series of complex equations and diagrams. Sarah recognized some of the symbols from their encounters with Xeraxian technology. It has come to our attention, the crystalline being continued, that your species has made significant advances in decrypting and adapting Xeraxian technology. Advances that, quite frankly, should have taken centuries. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Sarah could feel the weight of countless alien gazes upon her, some curious, others hostile. Furthermore, the counselor added, "We have reason to believe that you have employed some form of artificial intelligence to, shall we say, expedite your integration into our systems." Sarah's heart raced. They knew about the AI. But how much did they know? She opened her mouth to respond, but the crystalline being held up an appendage to silence her. "Before you protest, Captain, let me be clear. We are not here to punish you. On the contrary, we are impressed." The chamber erupted in a chorus of shocked exclamations. Sarah exchanged bewildered glances with her team. "You see," the counselor continued once the noise had died down, "the trials we had planned for you were designed to test not just your technological prowess, but your ingenuity, your adaptability, and yes, your audacity. By employing unconventional methods to gain an advantage, you have, in essence, passed our tests before they even began." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "With all due respect, counselor, survival has been our only test for the past year. We've had to adapt, to think outside conventional boundaries, just to stay alive." The crystalline being's facets sparkled. "Precisely, Captain. And that is exactly why we believe your species has much to offer the galactic community." But not everyone shared the counselor's enthusiasm. A large, gelatinous being oozed forward in its hoverpod, quivering with what appeared to be indignation. "This is outrageous," it burbled. "These humans have violated our most sacred protocols. They should be expelled, not rewarded." Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the assembly. Sarah could see the delicate balance of opinion tipping against them. It was then that Dr. Strand stepped forward, her eyes blazing with an idea. "Esteemed council," she began, her voice clear and confident. "If I may, I'd like to propose a challenge." All eyes turned to the xenolinguist. Even Sarah looked at her in surprise. "You doubt our methods, our intentions," Strand continued. "So let us prove ourselves, here and now. Choose any problem, any crisis facing the galactic community. Give us access to the relevant data, and let us demonstrate how humanity's unique perspective can offer new solutions." The chamber fell silent as the council members considered her words. Sarah held her breath, acutely aware of how much rode on this moment. Finally, the crystalline being spoke. "An intriguing proposal, Dr. Strand. Does the council find this acceptable?" After a moment of deliberation, a chorus of affirmative signals filled the chamber. "Very well," the counselor declared. "The challenge is set. You will be presented with 3 of the most pressing issues currently facing our galactic community. You will have 1 standard rotation to analyze the data and present your solutions. Your performance will determine not only your standing in the council, but potentially the fate of your entire species." As the terms of the challenge were laid out, Sarah felt a mix of anxiety and exhilaration. This was it, their chance to prove, once and for all, that humanity deserved its place among the stars. The first challenge was revealed. A centuries-old territorial dispute between 2 spacefaring races that had brought them to the brink of war. The second, a rapidly spreading techno-organic virus that threatened to consume entire star systems. And the third, a series of gravitational anomalies that defied the laws of physics as the Council understood them. As the data flooded into their systems, Sarah turned to her team. "All right, people, this is what we've been preparing for. Strand, I want you coordinating with the AI. See if we can find patterns in the linguistic and cultural data that others might have missed. Zhang, your military expertise will be crucial for the territorial dispute. Aisha, work with Rodriguez to tackle the technovirus. I'll take point on the gravitational anomalies. As her team sprang into action, Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. They had come so far, survived so much. Now, with the eyes of the galaxy upon them, they had a chance to show what humanity was truly capable of. The tables had turned. No longer were they the primitive species fighting for recognition. Now, they were the wild card, the unpredictable factor that could reshape the future of the entire galactic community. As she dove into the data on gravitational anomalies, Sarah felt a fierce pride in her species and her team. Whatever the outcome, they would face these challenges as they had faced every other, with creativity, determination, and that uniquely human spark that had carried them from the caves of Earth to the stars themselves. The clock was ticking. The greatest test of humanity had begun. Rewriting the rules. The standard rotation granted by the Galactic Council had passed in a blur of frenetic activity. Captain Sarah Chen and her team had worked tirelessly, pushing the limits of their creativity and the capabilities of their AI assistant. As they prepared to present their solutions, the atmosphere in the council chamber was electric with anticipation. Sarah stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by her team. Dr. Amelia Strand, General Zhang, and Aisha Okoro flanked her, each bearing the weight of humanity's future on their shoulders. The tiers above them were packed with alien observers, their myriad eyes, sensory organs, and data receptors all focused intently on the human delegation. The crystalline being that had become their de facto advocate floated forward. Captain Chen, you and your team have had one rotation to address 3 of our galaxy's most pressing issues. We are eager to hear your proposals. Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself. Honored Council, we thank you for this opportunity. Before we begin, I want to emphasize that what we're about to present isn't just a set of solutions, but a new way of approaching galactic problems. We believe that the true strength of the galactic community lies not in technological superiority, but in the diversity of perspectives we can bring to bear on any given issue. She nodded to Dr. Strand, who stepped forward to address the first challenge, the centuries-old territorial dispute threatening to spark an interstellar war. Esteemed Council, Strand began, her voice clear and confident. We've analyzed the linguistic and cultural data of both species involved in this conflict. What we found is fascinating. The root of their dispute isn't actually about territory, but a fundamental miscommunication that occurred centuries ago. Strand went on to explain how a single mistranslated word had spiraled into generations of misunderstanding and hostility. The human team proposed a radical solution, a complete restructuring of the diplomatic process, using advanced AI-assisted translation, coupled with immersive virtual reality environments to allow both species to literally see the conflict from each other's perspective. As Strand concluded her presentation, a buzz of excited conversation filled the chamber. Even the most skeptical council members seemed intrigued by this novel approach. Next, Aisha stepped forward to address the techno-organic virus threatening entire star systems. Honored Council, she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the subject. Our analysis suggests that this virus isn't a natural occurrence, but a form of ancient nanotechnology gone rogue. Aisha's proposal involved reprogramming the virus itself, turning it from a destructive force into a tool for planetary rehabilitation. By altering its base code, they could transform the virus into a swarm of nanobots capable of reversing ecological damage and terraforming inhospitable worlds. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some expressing awe at the audacity of the plan, others voicing concerns about the ethical implications of repurposing such a powerful technology. Finally, it was Sarah's turn to present their findings on the gravitational anomalies. She took a deep breath, knowing that what she was about to propose would challenge the very foundations of the Council's understanding of the universe. Honored Council, she began, her voice resonating through the chamber. After analyzing the data on the gravitational anomalies, we've come to a startling conclusion. These aren't anomalies at all, but evidence of a higher dimensional space interacting with our own. A hush fell over the assembly as Sarah explained their theory. The human team proposed that these anomalies were actually gateways to other dimensions, potentially offering access to unlimited energy and revolutionary forms of faster-than-light travel. But here's the crucial part. Sarah continued, her eyes scanning the chamber. We don't believe this discovery should be kept to ourselves. We propose the formation of a pan-galactic research initiative with representatives from every spacefaring race working together to unlock the secrets of these dimensional gateways. As she concluded her presentation, the council chamber exploded into a frenzy of discussion. Species that had never communicated directly before were now engaged in heated debates about the implications of the humans' proposals. The crystalline being floated forward once more, its facets shimmering with what Sarah had come to recognize as intense emotion. In all my cycles, it resonated. I have never witnessed such unconventional thinking. You have not merely solved the problems presented to you, but reframed them in ways we had never considered. A large, amorphous being that Sarah hadn't noticed before undulated forward. While the humans' methods are unorthodox, it gurgled, I cannot deny the potential of their proposals. Perhaps it is time for the council itself to adapt, to embrace new perspectives. The gelatinous being that had been their most vocal critic quivered in its hoverpod. This is precisely why emerging species like humans are dangerous, it burbled indignantly. They have no respect for established protocols, for the careful balance we've maintained for eons. The chamber descended into chaos as various factions argued passionately. Sarah exchanged glances with her team, unsure whether they had just secured humanity's place in the galaxy or doomed it to exile. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the din. The multi-tone thrum of Queen Kivax, the Zyrexian monarch who had become an unlikely ally. Esteemed Council, the Queen's voice resonated, with Dr. Strand providing translation. I stand before you as living proof of the human's ability to turn adversity into opportunity, to forge understanding where once there was only conflict. Their proposals today demonstrate not recklessness, but a bold vision for a more cooperative, adaptive galactic community. The Queen's words seemed to have a calming effect on the assembly. The crystalline being's facets sparkled as it turned to address Sarah directly. Captain Chen, your species has presented us with not just solutions, but a challenge to our very way of thinking. It is clear that humanity brings a unique and valuable perspective to our galactic community. The being paused, its crystalline structure pulsing with energy. By unanimous decision of the High Council, we hereby grant humanity full membership status, effective immediately. The chamber erupted in a mix of cheers, gasps, and exclamations in 100 alien tongues. Sarah felt a wave of relief and pride wash over her, but she knew their journey was far from over. Thank you, honored council, she said, her voice thick with emotion. We accept this great responsibility with humility and determination. But if I may, we have one final proposal. All eyes turned to her once more. Sarah took a deep breath, knowing that what she was about to say would shape the future of not just humanity, but the entire galactic community. We proposed the establishment of a new council initiative, the Convergence Protocol. This program would actively seek out emerging spacefaring species, offering guidance and support rather than waiting for them to stumble upon the galactic community. We believe that by nurturing diversity and fresh perspectives, we can create a more resilient, innovative, and harmonious galaxy for all. As the implications of her words sank in, the council chamber once again filled with excited discussion. Sarah could see that she had struck a chord, challenging the council to evolve beyond its ancient protocols and embrace a more inclusive vision of galactic civilization. The crystalline being's facets shimmered with what might have been a smile. Once again, Captain Chen, you force us to reconsider our most fundamental assumptions. Your convergence protocol will be put to a vote at our next full session. Regardless of the outcome, I believe you have already begun to reshape our galactic society in ways we are only beginning to understand. As the session concluded and congratulations poured in from all corners of the chamber, Sarah turned to her team. Their faces shone with a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. They had done it. Against all odds, they had secured humanity's place among the stars and set in motion changes that would ripple across the galaxy for generations to come. But Sarah knew that their greatest challenges and greatest adventures still lay ahead. As they prepared to return to Earth with news of their monumental achievement, her mind was already racing with plans for the future. Humanity had rewritten the rules of galactic politics. Now it was time to help shape the next chapter in the grand cosmic story. The age of human isolation was over. The era of galactic convergence had begun.